The Robert F. Kennedy Speak Truth to Power human rights curriculum is taught to students all across the world from kindergarten through law school. And our aim is to teach kids about human rights, about their capacity to make a difference, so that they feel like they can create change in the classroom, the community, the country, and globally on basic issues.
The Speak Truth to Power human rights curriculum really interested me for a range of reasons. Firstly, I liked the idea that they were using individual defenders as a hook to really guide the students through the complex issues raised by human rights. Also, I felt that the stories the defenders told were really powerful and students could identify with them very easily.
We're doing Malala, and she campaigns for girls' the right to girls' education, and we're having people pledge with their fingerprint around the heart, and they're going to take home one of these letters and sign it and then send it to Minister of Education, so that she sees how many people support Malala and education, and they'll do something about it.
That's amazing.
The students explored the stories of the defenders themselves and then the rights that they were defending following on from their case studies, and finally put together their own human rights gallery where they were educating people about the defenders but also trying to engage them in some active campaigning on the day.
This is our pledge. People sign it to say that they stand for LGBTQIA+. When they do, they get one of these, and they get a sticker to show that they support that community.
Frank McGuire went through so much, and his best friend got killed for being gay. So the fact that he went through a load of stuff and he's still protecting his rights is amazing.
I find my students referring to the case studies by their first name. So they're called the defenders Frank. Oh, well, Frank did this, and Jamie did this, and Malala did this, and it's like they know them inside out now. They know them really well. I think if they walked into the room, they'd feel like they were their friends.
We evaluated how the resources worked for them as teachers and how well they worked for the students by going in, asking the students to complete some questionnaires to give us feedback and conducting some focus groups. Some of the biggest impacts in terms of the pupil feedback was just how interesting they found the lessons and how engaged they were with learning about these case studies, helping them understand that human rights just don't arrive as a predetermined package, that they're part of a struggle. And lots of the positive student feedback was around understanding that human rights will stand or fall depending on the actions of citizens.
I think the materials are great because they're personalised stories, and often when we look at human rights injustices, we're struck with numbers, and I think the stories really bring them to life, and it makes the materials quite relatable. I think modelling it and embedding it within the curriculum at Kingston University for trainee teachers is good practice of how it should be taught, and then hopefully getting these trainee teachers to roll this out into their schools and their curriculums.
Yours sincerely, yours truly.
Human rights education is really the only defence, or the main defence we have against human rights violations. As René Cassin, who was one of the drafters of the Universal Declaration, said, the law is all very well, but it can only ever be a backstop. It's actually the way people work together and the way people live together in society that actually protects us all.
We need people that are brave enough to stand up when they see something wrong and have the courage to try and put it right. And that's where human rights education comes. Because we've got a generation of children now becoming adults, going out into the world, which is a very different world than it has been for previous generations, where there's much more uncertainty, where there's violence day to day, reading it on the news, where their access to information around the world is constant, and they don't really know where their place is in the world. We need children to be confident and to have that courage to say, I don't like that, it's wrong, and I'm going to do something about it.
It's about giving students a comfort level with saying, that's not right. We can do better. I have a role to play. And when you look in the mirror and you change from being a victim of circumstance to an activist who knows how to create change, that's a completely changed person. And that's what we want. That's what human rights education gives to students. It makes you say, I'm not alienated, I'm not ostracized, I'm not apart. I'm part of this society. I have a way forward. I have a role to play, and I can bring my friends and I can bring my colleagues along. And we're going to make our school or our country or our world more just, more peaceful, a better earth, a better place to live.